My name is Arber and welcome to the Formica Table podcast, episode 2, Coop's Bad Hair Day. After 26 years, Twin Peaks Season 3 is finally here and we'll be taking a look at the opening pair of episodes which aired together a few days ago. I'm joined around the Formica Table as usual by Mark Walker and Killer Rob. How you doing, guys?
Hello.
Hello.
Alright, so without further ado, let's dive straight into it and get your initial impressions of the first 2 hours of Twin Peaks The Return. So Mark, tell me, what did you think?
I must say, I would say there was a point. Okay, this sort of pretty much sums it up. There was a point somewhere, I think, in the first episode where I thought, fuck, we've committed ourselves to doing a weekly review of these episodes. What if we don't want to do that at some point because it's so out there? Like, I mean, I think there's a lot to be said for not pandering to nostalgia, not kind of regurgitate sort of past successes and do something else, surprises. There was this hint in various media and in the trailers that maybe the series was going to jump around various locations, and that worried me because I thought, such a big part of Twin Peaks for me particularly is, this sense of place, this kind of this sense of once a week kind of going to this sort of this very sort of atmospheric, very particular kind of tonal place, which has a lot to do with the inhabitants that live there and these characters that you get to know slowly. And having seen what I've seen so far, there's very little of that, and there's very little of like the soap opera element, which tempered the sort of more Lynchian elements, which are definitely here, in force. So I definitely feel like those things are missing. I mean, there's no doubt that we're watching something by David Lynch, no doubt about that. But is it Twin Peaks? It might be Twin Peaks, but it's not Twin Peaks as we know it.
And what about you, Rob?
I've only seen episode 1 and 2, so I'm kind of I'm innocent of what happens after it, so I'm kind of free to speculate.
Yeah, you've got more willpower than me because I couldn't help myself. And I watched the same evening. I watched episodes 3 and 4, but we're going to contain our conversation as much as possible to just the first pair of episodes.
Well, I was just keen to make sure I could document my experience of the first 2 episodes, and that's it. Okay, I'm about to say something I really did not expect that I was going to say. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I was completely on board with it, and as a piece of TV, it's not holding back in any way, but it's nevertheless answering all the questions that kind of were left over from Series 2. It's laying down rules and giving us the most complete understanding of the lodge and its denizens that we've ever had, and it's doing all the things it needs to do in response to both Fire Walk With Me and the TV series. Philip Jeffries is involved somehow. We know that Bad Dale has got a 25-year window and he wants more. That's where he's coming from. We know there's...
I didn't get that.
Yeah,
I didn't get that 25 years is his time limit.
Yeah.
And we know that there's some reclusive billionaire who has a knowledge of all the kind of the ins and out, the ways into the lodge, and whoever this person is, he knows there's a way in New York. Bob is using Dale's FBI knowledge in some way to attempt to avoid returning to the lodge, and and something to do with Major Briggs's research and probably Wyndham Earle and all that. But Jeffries not Agent Jeffries has something to do with it, and it's what Twin Peaks season 3 kind of needed to be. The whole cosmology, the mythology, and the kind of the metaphysics of it are all there. Because where we were left by the TV series and the elaborations we had in the film, this is where we have dropped now. Is exactly this is the stuff it needs to get through, and it's mad, but there's definite method in it.
For my part, I really loved it. That first 2 hours, when I watched those first 2 hours, I was like punching the air, and I'm going, yes, this is not quite Inland Empire, although it has touches of it. This is Twin Peaks, but it's it's just like the arm has evolved. This is Twin Peaks that's evolved as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say that Inland Empire is a very good point. I mean, Lynch has been on a certain creative trajectory since Twin Peaks, and we have gotten full credit to him as an artist. We've gotten the filmmaker who finished Inland Empire, and we got his very next project. We didn't go back to the filmmaker who had just finished making Twin Peaks for this.
Yeah.
We got the post Inland Empire David Lynch. I think I was I was like a cat that just desperately wanted to be stroked. That sort of, like purrs like a machine gun even if you just look at it.
Yeah.
So when the log lady comes back on screen, I'm like on the verge of tears.
My log has a message for you.
I mean, when she appeared on screen, that was heartbreaking, I thought.
Well, also because we know that the actress herself was Catherine Coulson was ill. So I mean, that in itself kind of lends another emotional layer to her appearance there, and and the long friendships that Lynch and she have had. And there's moments like that. And going back to the Roadhouse, and that kind of felt like home in a way. And I sort of hate myself for being the sentimental one here now, but there is a sentimentality to Twin Peaks, and I felt that we were sort of being denied it. I think we got these little crumbs, to kind of keep us going.
One very early on was Dr. Jacoby's wonderful introduction, where he takes off his welding goggles or whatever they were to reveal his glasses underneath. It's just like that was lovely. But I entirely get what you mean. We are being utterly denied the warm, comforting return to Twin Peaks so far.
Well, I mean, this is the key thing, isn't it? So far, because this is really, as described by Lynch and Frost, as an 18-hour movie that's almost like arbitrarily chopped into episodes.
Yeah, but I mean, with the I think last week when I mentioned the famous rock throwing scene as kind of my crystallizing moment.
Yeah.
That comes along in what's really it's episode 2, but it's the third episode, and I kind of feel that where this just in terms of the narrative where the narrative is forced to begin because of where it ended, I think it just we are beginning in a place of darkness. But I'd be really surprised if we don't return to that kind of to the Twin Peaks we want to revisit. But I think we'll go there when Dale Cooper does. And my feeling at the moment is that he's in a very bad place. But I'm kind of looking forward to being awed and endeared all over again by his resilience in the face of it. So I think I have a feeling we're starting in a place of complete darkness, and I think we're going to move towards the light, but probably not for a few hours, perhaps.
Yeah, so I thought we'd look at each location and talk about what goes on there and what our thoughts are, the characters that we meet along the way. So starting off with Twin Peaks, our first introduction there, as you mentioned earlier, Rob, is Dr. Jacoby getting a delivery of shovels. So why is he getting a delivery of shovels?
Why not? I'm sure we'll find out. I that was my first little squee. Really, was when Jacoby reappears. That was lovely. His little introduction it was fantastic. But even despite the fact, it's that was so lovely and reassuring. The sound design in this is phenomenal, and the wind in the trees kept this chilly air of menace over it regardless. So it's like the environment is fighting against that sense of warmth that it would otherwise engender, which I was very aware of, actually.
Well, there's Ben and Jerry, isn't there?
Yeah, exactly. Which again,
also feels pretty inconsequential, insubstantial.
I was surprised by Jerry's appearance. He seemed
100,
like Father Christmas, because he was like the younger, more dynamic pair of the brothers,
definitely.
And he seems to kind of overtaken his brother in age. That was quite a shock. But Ben's still in the hotel business. Jerry is diversified into selling legalized weed.
Right. Yeah. That dialogue is extremely expositional. There was a lot of dialogue like that, which was kind of letting you know what's going on, which is unusual, I think, for Lynch. His dialogue is usually a little bit more subversive than that.
But the scene with Ben and Jerry was, for me, the first scene where I thought, something's not quite right here.
Yeah.
And it was the fact that there was no Angelo Badalamenti music.
Yeah.
When you see scenes of Ben and Jerry together, you expect that kind of like, that sort of stuff, or shuffling snares, just giving the scene a bit of bounce, and it ends on a kind of punchline, when Ben says, "Is that mother's hat?" You can imagine, the music just kind of resolving on that point and going to the next scene. And the fact that we didn't have that music.
Yeah, there's that YouTube video where it's Jagger and Bowie doing Dancing in the Street.
Yes, I've seen that, and
they take all the music out.
Yes, that's exactly what it felt like. Yeah.
Do you know what? For me, what that did was it made me feel like they're old now. The party's over. They have no juice left. It's crap to be old, isn't it? And I think the absence of music kind of helped convey that. It does have. It's an incredible lack of music in it now. That's the thing. But 25 years have elapsed, and I think Lynch is a different person now. And
But I remember there was a big announcement, and even David Lynch said, Angelo's back on board. He's going to be doing the music for this. And apart from a few stuff which was pulled from the original series and Firewalk with Me, I didn't hear anything new. I didn't hear anything at all.
Well, at least there was some score. There was some kind of Lynchy score, and that was the first moment for me where I felt like, okay, now something clicked into place. And then it was, Evil Coop.
And we've got a couple of other little scenes of varying importance, I would say. We've got Lucy introducing us, the audience, to the idea that there are now two Sheriff Trumans when the insurance guy comes in. I thought Lucy looked amazing, and it was like the 25 years hadn't passed. It was like she's just the same old Lucy.
Yeah, for me though, that Lucy's stuff felt like fan service to me somehow. I'm saying I loved it, and I did, but I nevertheless do have problems with some of it. And a couple of things I have a problem with are Lucy and Andy felt like there should have been, the studio audience should have been cheering as they walked in. It had that feel to it. I didn't like that stuff as much.
You know what? It made me feel like. Like around the time of the second season, it was like super popular, and it started sort of seeding into sort of mainstream pop culture.
Yeah,
and I think Carl McLaughlin maybe and Machen Mick did a Saturday Night Live kind of sketch, Twin Peaks kind of esque sketch. there are moments when I felt like that I was watching something like that, you know, particularly in those scenes, you know, and Hawk with all that dialogue kind of felt a bit weird as well.
Hawk was my favourite thing in the Twin Peaks location, because I felt like, well, he's a guy who's had 25 years to think about this, and he's got the background to deal with it. But I will say that the Twin Peaks section is my least favourite section of it.
Yeah. I'm like that as well.
It's the least interesting. I feel like the story doesn't need us to go there yet.
Yeah,
you know,
and that's kind of my problem with it, with the whole first 2 hours at least. You know, what we're given of Twin Peaks is completely inconsequential and insubstantial. You know, from that location.
Yeah, it's like they are giving us the first half hour of Firewalk with Me.
I mean, we've got two more moments really to look at in the Twin Peaks section. That's Sarah Palmer watching lions eat a buffalo. Which
that was great. I like that.
Yeah, that felt very kind of like Lynchian and unnerving and unsettling. You know.
Yeah.
And then we've got Shelley and James at the Bang Bang Bar whilst the chromatics are playing in the background. Okay,
well, that is my least favourite thing in the entire 2 episodes.
I actually really liked it, and I liked the music. I liked the shoegazy music. It made me smile to see James again.
Even though James has always been cool.
James is cool. James is cool.
I don't know, when he was singing that song in
Just You.
No,
it's not his fault though. That's not his fault. I mean, that's not his fault that Lynch put his voice through a weird vocoder and made it sound like he was castrati, or made him breathe a bag of helium, or whatever he did to him.
Yeah.
I like James actually. I didn't even realise until today that James has kind of got this sort of bad rep about being like the worst thing in Twin Peaks.
He's my. I think I agree with that. I tolerate him really.
Yeah.
Thank God I'm here.
Yeah. After Twin Peaks, I think we should look at New York, because that I think is a crucial bit of the this new season. And for my money, I found it it was a white knuckle ride. Just intensely creepy, and just the stillness of most of it. Oh my God, I loved it.
It was like Bill Pullman's house in Lost Highway.
It's very Lost Highway, that stuff. Yeah, the whole kind of surveillance element. And
Mark, what did you think? You know, this whole stuff with Sam, who's been employed to look at this glass case, and
I like him. I like the character. I like the young actor as well. And I like the setup. There was obviously some kind of analogy with watching a TV, or watching Twin Peaks maybe, and you know, some kind of crazy meta thing about watching the glass box, waiting for something to show up, something to scare you. Or it was very, very Lost Highway-y. Somehow it made me think a lot about the strange video man from Lost Highway.
We've met before, haven't we? I don't think so. Where was it you think we met? At your house, don't you remember?
Yeah, I like being in New York. Actually, it reminded me of Lynch's sort of failed other TV projects. I don't know if you've seen it. It's called On the Air.
On the Air, yeah. It had that kind of vibe. In fact, there was a lot. The whole of this Twin Peaks series made me think about that show and the other one that didn't take off, called Hotel Room.
For a millennium, the space for the hotel room existed, undefined. Mankind captured it, gave it shape, pass through.
There's a similar vibe with those, particularly Hotel Room. I think, this like no music, kind of sort of stagey, a little bit theatrical kind of staging. Particularly that set that we're talking about now in the billionaire mansion. I mean, that could have been a theatre set, a stage. It's very theatre. The glass box and that sort of elevated part where they're sitting on a sofa and things. It's just very painterly. I knew that you'd be excited by it, Jason.
Yeah.
It's very you.
Yeah, I like that kind of like just unsettling creepiness. So anything that goes in that direction, I'm totally on board for.
I was genuinely scared as well, I think, by the apparition.
And for me, it broadened out Twin Peaks. Immediately it's not we're not in the northwest of the US. Now we're on the East Coast.
Yeah.
And it's all of a sudden the canvas just opened out, and it's like, okay, this is a different beast. This is this is not the Twin Peaks that we knew previously.
And very significantly, it's also very clearly a key part of the plot, because at some point we're going to get some mysterious billionaire who understands the metaphysics of Twin Peaks and what the hell's going on with the lodge. And that's the thing this promises. So one thing it does do, it completely blows Twin Peaks, this small town drama, wide open, and because the town is part of something much, much bigger. And that's kind of what that's where Agent Philip Jeffries comes in too, in Firewalk with Me. And this is the continuation, I think, in terms of that film. It's what the hell was Major Briggs and Wyndham Earle doing all those years, and where's that knowledge now? One key thing the New York sequence does is it lets you know there's a whole, this whole thing has been thought through and plotted now, and that I think that's Mark Frost's presence at work here, because
I really had a hard time detecting Mark Frost in any of this.
Oh no, I think I can, because but I think we can maybe save that for when we get to the Black Lodge. But with this sequence, another thing that I want to talk about later. But in this particular sequence, the weird entity that appears in the glass box to me that's what the baby from Eraserhead would look like if it had grown to adulthood. That's that's absolutely where that particular creature took me. I just found it so reminiscent of Eraserhead, and I've got lots of other things to say about that later on.
I mean, the whole thing, in a way, feels like David Lynch's greatest hits, because as you went through it, you saw bits of Eraserhead, you saw bits of Blue Velvet, you saw bits
of his paintings, paintings and his sculpture and his photography. Yeah, I think to a degree that we've not seen before, it's like it really feels like condensed Lynch. I think the Showtime exec said this is like, pure heroin David Lynch, and he ain't lying.
Potentially, in my mind at least, related to the New York scene is the little scene that we get in Las Vegas, where we've got Mr. Todd, who's the guy who was in Mulholland Drive.
There's a man in back of this place. He's the one who's doing it. I can see him through the wall.
Great scene.
He's actually working, I believe, for the billionaire, because
that's the impression I got.
Yeah, because the guy who comes in and gets the money says, something along the lines of, why do you let this guy do these things to you? And then Mr. Todd says, I hope you never have a guy like this in your life.
Yeah.
So clearly, this guy's a big deal. And although there's nothing directly making me think that Mr. Todd's boss is the billionaire, somehow in my mind, I knitted the two things together. Whether I'll be proven right or wrong, we'll see down the line.
I'm kind of feeling it's a combination of Windermere and Lex Luthor rolled into one. That kind of character with that kind of knowledge, but with the resources to approach it scientifically, on a budget.
That was Windermere's shtick, wasn't it? He was all about kind of finding out about the Black Lodge and the mechanics of it. Operation Blue Book
and all that kind of thing. Yeah. So that's where this whole thing's going. And I think that, again, that's one of Mark Frost's, I would suggest, influences, in that the whole metaphysics of this now doesn't feel like something that David Lynch has just gradually, intuitively developed, which is actually the case. Now it feels like it's all been sat down and thought through rather than just felt through.
Having read The Secret History of Twin Peaks now, I definitely see that there are more links to that book than I was initially anticipating. I thought that the book was almost like a separate thing, with Mark Frost getting a lot off his chest, but it appears that there's stuff in the book which directly relates to stuff in the show. So I can see, even if you can't see it yet, Mark, I can see Mark Frost's fingerprints on some of the plot elements in what's happening.
I have the book. I haven't read it. But
I haven't read it, to be honest. Yeah. But all the weird stuff in this feels like there's a really well thought through internal consistent reality to it now, which perhaps maybe it didn't even in Fire Walk with Me and the TV series. But now it feels like someone's gone through and there are very specific rules in place, and it's never felt that way before. Even the whole 25 years thing suddenly feels very reminiscent to me of the 27-year cycle in Derry, Maine, in Stephen King's It, that another small town tale of horror. Suddenly, that element has been introduced simply by virtue of the 25-year cyclical conceit, or whatever it is.
There's a danger, though, that it kind of gets a little bit clinical and cold and mechanical and metallic and sort of constructed, and that all that's fine. But if you don't have the warmth that all that stuff was tempered with, in the original series, I didn't miss that in the original series or in Fire Walk with Me. I didn't miss a kind of a sense of structure or construction. I wonder if that's the wrong emphasis in a way. Like, I don't need, it could be a bit midichlorian. I don't need to know necessarily certain things. Although it is, I didn't pick up on the 25-year window, and I like that. That's there's a 25-year window for a doppelganger.
Yeah. Well, speaking of doppelgangers, let's turn our gaze now to Buckhorn, South Dakota.
Yes. Yeah.
And we get to see the bad Dale being a badass.
It was so exciting to see him emerge from the car with a mullet, Jean-Claude Van Damme style, and then proceed to sort of elbow somebody in the nose, or sort of use the shotgun butt to break their face. Kind of, I was like, I think I let out a little yelp of joy, because I wasn't expecting that at all, and that was a sort of pleasure to be surprised by Carl McLachlan. What a kind of 180 on the character, and perfectly in tune with the sort of mythology as it's sort of been set up until this point. With there being a bad Dale. I mean, we've had for 26 years we've had an idea about what the bad Dale might be doing out there, but we've only had the opportunity to wonder about it. So now we see it, and it's hugely satisfying, actually. And I liked all those scenes with him, and the scene in the motel room.
I really liked the little scene, when he goes to visit Otis and Beulah to correct Ray and Daria. I just thought, like Otis felt like a real Lynchian character. Like he could have been somebody from Lost Highway, and he reminded me a little bit of Mary's dad in Eraserhead as well. You know, when
Yeah.
Mary and her mother go off.
With the chickens.
We've got chicken tonight. Strangest damn things. They're man-made. Little damn things. Smaller than my fist. They're new.
And the two weird guys, you know, one in a wheelchair and the super tall skinny guy, just off to one side. That just was so bizarre as well.
Yeah, for me though, I must admit, I'm not sure how I feel about Carl McLaughlin's ability to play a rough blue-collar lynch villain. I was enjoying it, and it in just in narrative terms, I thought, yeah, this is perfect. But I can't take him seriously. I just feel that as an actor, he's a bit too stiff and straight for that kind of role. I don't know.
I beg to differ with you a little bit because
that's cool.
I was surprised. Yeah. I was surprised by how well he pulled it off. I mean, because I have the same preconceptions of him as you do, but I think we've just never seen him in a role like that, and I think he really enjoyed himself. You sort of got that impression, and I wonder if it was I definitely got the same feeling as you, Rob, and I had those thoughts, but then I was constantly impressed that he manages to just about pull it off.
Yeah, I don't really mean to knock him too much, but I just feel the scene where, you know, it's like, are you going to kill me now? Yeah. Should have just felt more chilling than it did. And I think it's just because, for me, he doesn't quite have the gravitas it takes for that kind of thing. I don't know. He's not quite Henry Fonda in Once Upon a Time in the West, if you know what I mean. You know, in terms of it's that kind of casting shock. But for me, it almost felt like your dad going to a party dressed as the Terminator. I don't know. I wanted to be more frightened of him than I was, and I'm usually terrified of all Lynch's villains, but I couldn't quite get past the Kyle MacLachlan-ness of him for some reason. Yeah,
that was the face that his mother gave him.
He's doing
his best.
It's more the way it's more his physicality, the way he stands. He's very ramrod.
He's got a cucumber.
Yeah, he does. He does
in a dark place.
And I kind of feel that for playing the bad Coop, he needed that ramrod removed and to have been more fluid in his physicality. But he does have that preppy jock carriage, you know, and he can't shake it off.
Yeah, he's the eternal Boy Scout.
Yeah.
I think maybe I was impressed. Maybe he didn't do such a great job, but I was impressed because of my preconceptions of Kyle MacLachlan as an actor and the roles that he's done previously. I was genuinely delighted to see him do this. Yeah,
that I can fully get behind that. Yeah.
I just loved that the whole kind of really cheesy look to him as well. He's got the snakeskin shirt, he's got the leather jacket, he's got the mullet, you know, with the kind of like a half ponytail thing at the back. He looks like one of the villains out of Blue Velvet or something, you know.
Yeah, he could easily be one of Frank's gang.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He totally had that vibe, and I think I enjoyed it on that kind of level. You know, it's like there is a slight campiness to this. To this bad guy.
Yeah.
It feels so clear to me that he obviously relished the opportunity to do that as well.
Oh, it is a gift to an actor, you know, giving them the permission to do that kind of thing. Yeah.
This is quite an interesting thing to think about. The game begins.
We're introduced with that woman with the tiny dog walking down the corridor.
What is it, Armstrong? Oh! Ruth! Ruth, are you in there?
She was one of those poor actors that I was talking about earlier. There's something, even in a small part like that, you know, if the performance is not quite up to par, it breaks the illusion for me.
Yeah, I thought that her line delivery in a couple of instances was a little bit kind of like weird and stiff, but overall, I really, really enjoy the scenes with her. So I cut her a little bit of slack just because the whole thing was kind of like super enjoyable for me, and it kind of injected a little bit of the old school Twin Peaks humor into this, with the exasperated cops, trying to get into this door, and she had the key the whole time.
It felt to me a lot like a lot of the lighter moments in Mulholland Drive. Mulholland Drive is the biggest vibe I was getting off the whole South Dakota stuff, personally.
So we've had Eraserhead, we've had Lost Highway, we've had Inland Empire, we've had Mulholland Drive. We just haven't had any Twin Peaks yet.
Yes, no, that's kind of my thesis for this, really.
Another major plot point is revealed in the room with the smell. When they finally get in there, we see initially the head of a woman who's been shot in the eye, which is pretty gruesome.
That was wonderfully grotesque.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With our South Dakota cops going, uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Which, had like a bit of a Fargo vibe to it. I quite liked. And when the covers are pulled back, it's revealed that it's just the severed head of this woman, Ruth Davenport, the librarian. And underneath it is...
Thank God you've done your homework, Jason.
Oh yeah, I do a lot of homework. Is the body of a slightly overweight man.
Yeah.
So
weird, huh?
Who could that be? Anybody have any
thoughts? Well, Jacques was at the bar.
Yes.
He was tending bar, so it's not him.
Yeah. Although he's playing a different character. That actor is playing a different character. It's
what?
Yeah. I think he's called something like Jean-Michel Renault in the credits. So that presumably is another Renault brother.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well spotted.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, I have a theory as to who the body is. Possibly it's the body of a character played by an actor who perhaps couldn't be
one of those.
in the film anymore.
Thinking.
All right, okay, we'll just leave that hanging there, and we can return to this.
Now, is this a theory based on having seen the first 2 episodes, or a theory based on having seen 3?
It is reinforced by seeing subsequent episodes, but once I'd watched the first 2 episodes, it was one of the things that I kind of went, okay,
Right.
Anyway, it turns out that there are fingerprints all over the apartment that belong to the local school principal. The police are dispatched to arrest this guy. What's he called? Bill Hastings. I think that's the character's name. And he
plays Shaggy in the Scooby-Doo live action movies.
Yes. I have to say,
you're kidding.
No. It's
what's his name?
Matthew Lillard is the actor's name,
and Scream too.
He was in Scream. He played one of the killers in Scream. But I have to say that Matthew Lillard is one of my favorite actors in this new Twin Peaks thing.
Me too. He killed it.
He was brilliant. Yeah, he was.
Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
He was so good, I did not recognize him at all. Yeah.
No, it was a typically good Lynchian performance.
I think in these key roles, he manages to find the right actor for the role. And this guy, from happy school principal who's just like, hi, when he sees, his fishing buddy at the door, go, why am I being arrested? To then, when he's being interviewed, all of a sudden getting really hot under the collar and starts flubbing his alibi, and he really wants to see George, his lawyer. There's so many undercurrents going on there. It's incredible.
So he's been bobbed, hasn't he?
This is what I think, because he said he had a dream about going to that place. So I think he could be this season's Leland.
Okay. See, I didn't pick up on that at all, or rather, that didn't cross my mind at all. I kind of went with the fact that he is just an innocent, but then again, one could argue that Leland Palmer
was an innocent too. Yeah,
was an innocent.
Yeah, I mean, I have theories on whether Leland was aware of what he was doing or not.
Oh, that's too dark. Come on.
No.
If you're talking about the TV series, then no. If it's Firewalk with Me, suddenly the answer is yes. That's one of my problems with Firewalk with Me.
That's one of the reasons why I like Firewalk with Me, because all of a sudden it allows you to go back and reinterpret the TV show with the knowledge that perhaps he did know.
No, I think that's a betrayal of the fine work done in the series. Actually,
betrayal or building upon, who knows?
But back to South Dakota. That's a promising reading. Yeah, I'd happily go with that. The interesting thing is, what's Bad Dale's game plan there? What's actually going on? Because this is obviously part of a bigger plot that's significant to him personally.
Yes. Yeah.
However, whatever human wreckage he leaves in the way.
But whilst we're talking about Bill Hastings and his wife, who seems to be they seem to hate each other, and she seems to be really pleased that he's going to be spending the rest of his life in prison.
The impression I had was that for a moment was that she'd done it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which
that was my reading at the time.
I think there's some involvement, because when the police turn up and she gets the keys to the car, the way she's looking at the police as they go and open the trunk of the car, and they find that bit of flesh which looks a bit like a thumb or something like that in the
foreskin.
Possibly. The way that she's looking there, it's like she's hoping that they'll find that really obvious bit of evidence. It feels like that evidence was planted, and she planted the evidence. So I think she's definitely involved in some way, because when her husband says, "I know about you and George and some other guy," I think that other guy is Coop, or Bad Coop, at any rate.
Mr. C.
Mr. C, yeah. Because when she returns home after seeing her husband in jail, she doesn't go, "Who the hell are you?" She goes, "Oh, it's you." So clearly she knows Mr. C.
I want a Mr. C action figure.
Yes, totally.
Are they going to do a Mr. C Pop Funko?
They should do. If not, write some letters, Mark. Yeah. But in the jail scene, we had another one of our really super creepy moments where we pan across.
That's great. That's a great moment.
Track across to, and we see like 2 cells along some really weird, creepy, starey guy.
That's a point where I thought, this is what Lynch does like nobody else does.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe with the exception of Bunwell, or one of these people that Lynch admires so much. Yeah. This dream state, this kind of cinema as dream. Nobody does it like him. It's these kind of nightmarish moments that absolutely feel like they're pulled out of your subconscious.
Just the way he melts, and then his face rises up.
His head just floats away like a balloon. Yeah, he was like the cannibal from Deathline, having a job as a chimney sweep. That's what I thought he looked like.
Chimney sweeps are scary.
They are. Have you met a chimney sweep? They're blood. Yeah. Don't trust them.
Imagine having that popping out of your mantelpiece.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. But this dude did remind me of the hobo behind the restaurant in Mulholland Drive. It had that kind of vibe.
Yeah. But almost kind of thrown away, sort of token, sort of.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, although I did talk about the fact that I think a lot of the Black Lodge stuff has been kind of formalized now, and the way it all works is kind of does feel like Mark Frost has sat down and figured it all out into slightly dry specifics. What I'm hoping is that moments like that are just going to be left for what they are.
Yes.
Because we don't need to know.
It doesn't stop me asking, who the hell was that? But I don't necessarily need to, the answer. I don't necessarily want the answer.
We shouldn't have it. Yeah. What I'm hoping is that stuff like that's just going to. I'm just going to leave that there for you.
Interestingly, when Bill's alibi is starting to break apart, one of the things that he mentions is that his secretary had a problem with her car. And I'm not sure if you kind of like joined that statement with when we see the Bad Dale and Ray in the hotel, the motel restaurant later.
Right.
Because
continue.
Because it's quite subtle, because there are lots of new names in here that are just kind of like thrown at you, and you've got to try and remember it and kind of like think, oh, who are all these people? But in the diner, when Ray mentions to the bad Dale about Dale being worried about the next couple of days and if there's anything he can do to help, and Dale says that he wants a bit of information from Ray. The information that Ray is going to provide is being provided by Bill Hastings' secretary. And we also see the secretary's car. You know, when what's his name? Is it Dave or something? Who's, you know, the silent guy who's just eating the spaghetti in the restaurant.
Yes.
When we see him next, he's hiding one of two cars, and I think one of those cars is actually the secretary's car.
Okay.
I don't think I was thinking about it that much.
Yeah. I've now watched these two episodes about 5 times, so I've spent a lot of time.
That explains a lot.
Sort of like, yeah, kind of like drawing these little kind of like.
You've got diagrams on the wall. Is your room like a sort of serial killer's lair?
It is. It's exactly like that, you know, with kind of bits of string linking different photos and screenshots and that sort of thing. So I found it very interesting that it in this South Dakota thing, that there is, not only does Dale shoot Phyllis, that there's some other connection there, you know, in terms of the information. In more specifically, Dale wants coordinates. So coordinates is the thing that Ray is going to get from.
Isn't the coordinates some
Bill's secretary?
Isn't the coordinates something to do with a portal, maybe to the Black Lodge or the White Lodge? Or it's
Could well be, because this is the thing that Wyndham Earle was you know, obsessed with, you know, trying to find the entrance.
Yeah.
You know? And so he was obsessed with maps and coordinates and that sort of stuff.
The thing is, Bad Dale's goal is to not go back.
Yeah.
So the impression I got was it's either coordinates to something to do with an entrance to the lodge, or the other thing, the way my mind was going, this is more of just a generic genre thing, but heck, you know, they've given up being a soap opera. They might start being some other generic genre thing for a bit. Was actually looking for some kind of research facility that's looked into the Black Lodges, because, you know, if there is a technological aspect to studying them, then I was kind of thinking, is he going to he's evidently using the real Dale's governmental knowledge to, you know, speak to agents, people like Jeffries and stuff like that. You know, is you know, what's he up to? Is it something like, is there some kind of technological response to the lodges that he wants to employ? That's kind of taking it to a kind of a paranormal sci-fi territory, but that has been there since the original run. It's just never been explored.
We see Dale with Jack. I called him Dave earlier, but his name's Jack. The mechanic.
Jack with the squishy face.
With the squishy face, yeah. I know, it's just one of those inexplicable things that's just weird. But then he goes and meets with Daria in the motel room, where he plays back the phone message where Ray is saying that he's now in federal prison for taking guns over a state line. And the interesting thing there is that Ray and Daria were being paid to kill Bad Coop.
Right.
Which I thought was kind of interesting. And I'm not sure if you picked up who the person was that was paying Daria and Ray to do the murder.
Wasn't it Jeffries or?
It was Philip Jeffries. And then as soon as he kills Daria, he gets out his weird FBI suitcase thing. And I think he must be in regular contact with Philip Jeffries. And this whole scene was weird because obviously the guy on the other end of the phone did not sound anything like David Bowie.
We're not going to talk about Judy. David Bowie didn't sound like David Bowie when he was in Twin Peaks.
Yeah. But
Bowie was expected to come back for it.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, but even in the scene, doesn't Bad Coop kind of lampshade that problem by questioning whether he is Jeffries?
Yeah, indeed.
To kind of get out of that problem. Yeah.
But another interesting nugget of information that happened during the conversation between Bad Dale and Philip Jeffries, or whoever is on the other line pretending to be Philip Jeffries, was that the Bad Dale had gone to see Major Briggs.
Yes. Yeah, I picked up on that.
So
well, it's not difficult. He mentions it. It's Rob, stop. I'm not gonna brag about picking up on that because it's dialogue in the thing. I know how to watch TV.
Yeah. But this is to go back to a previous conversation. This is the thing that twigged in my head, because obviously when Major Briggs was mentioned, and clearly they can't have the actor back to play the Major. I immediately went back to the body in the bed that was discovered.
Oh.
Because when they couldn't ID it, it was military blocked, on her police screen. They, that it was a John Doe.
You are clever.
But the military were blocking it, and I was like, oh, "Is that the body of Major Briggs?"
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot.
Spare time.
But
I've been getting laid this weekend, thank you. I've had time to watch.
No chance. Not until the end of September. Maybe not even then.
No, that's a fantastic. I love the idea that it's Major Briggs.
Yeah. It just
The thing that's indicating to me, or it suggests to me, is that you've got the doppelganger. Is he a bit like a reverse Faust? He's a devil who wants to stay out, and he's possibly looking at human technology to help him do so. Whatever Briggs and Wyndham Earle were researching all those years. That he's kind of Area 51 type stuff to help him stay out of the Black Lodge. That's for me, that seems to be where it's going. And the New York sequences, the whole technological aspect to it, seem to kind of back that up. And that's kind of
okay.
That's it's almost Lynch does the X-Files. That's the way I feel it's going, based on the information I've got.
Too far there.
Well,
too far in that direction.
Who knows?
Exclusively. I hope it doesn't go exclusively that far.
I
hope that we still have some of the interpersonal relationships and the sort of soap opera elements of that made Twin Peaks a sort of quasi magical reality.
Which brings us nicely to the Black Lodge, which is the final location that we're going to talk about. So we're first introduced to the Black Lodge, or what we think is the Black Lodge, at the very beginning when we see the giant talking to what we presume is the Good Dale in a black and white setting, which is something we have
straight out of Razorhead. Yeah. That was for me. That was pure Razorhead.
It's a style of Black Lodge that we hadn't seen before.
I was worried. I was like, oh, black and white. What's going on here? This ain't no Twin Peaks like what I've ever seen before.
It's not my father's Twin Peaks.
This is not like Twin Peaks. What my granddad was watching. He'll be turning. Yeah. Why black and white? Why?
Who knows? And again, we have a giant who's dishing out clues.
Remember 430. Richard Stanley. 2 hours worth on.
I understand.
Which will probably have some kind of meaning as we go through the thing.
I will say, Kyle MacLachlan in those scenes was incredible. I thought
incredibly precise evocation of the 1990s Kyle MacLachlan.
Yes, yeah. And also, the one thing I found really powerful was when Laura returns, and the emotion I felt just from him at seeing her. I don't think that was just me reading into it as a fan of the show. I thought that his work there was just incredible. I really felt whatever he was feeling. I was just so impressed with him in all those sequences.
And what did you think about the crazy bits where Laura Palmer flips her face back to reveal that kind of like bluish light coming out of her?
That sort of, that godlight or whatever it is.
One of the things that I admired about the Black Lodge sequences from the original series is that it's all kind of slowed down or ran backwards or kind of dissolves. Everything's in camera.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that sort of glow behind the removing the face and the glow, it was a bit too sort of VFX-y.
This is
I'll buy that. Yeah,
this is a topic that we're going to return to next time. Trust me. But yeah, it felt a little out of place. I totally agree with you that I like the in-camera-ness of stuff that they had previously. Like when
also
when
because
you see,
it doesn't date. That stuff doesn't
Yeah.
date. Those effects, which are sort of lo-fi VFX, it already sort of it dates it somewhat. I think one of the strengths of Twin Peaks was its kind of timelessness, in the production design, but also kind of in its format and in the way it's made. In the dressing, we know it's made in the 1990s, but I mean there are elements of it that could be 1950s, 1940s. The Black Lodge always had this kind of Art Deco furniture, and the marble statues, and just a sort of timelessness to it. And I think when you introduce this kind of these VFX, for me it sort of feels a little bit out of place. Although I think that one in particular, the evolution of the arm, that VFX, I didn't mind it so much because it reminded me of Lynch's drawings and paintings and photographs, and I think the fact that it was lo-fi kind of fed into it was in keeping with Lynch's aesthetic, I think.
What did you guys think about the changing of the man from another place to the evolution of the arm?
Genius.
I loved it. Yeah,
Who
it's
else
fantastic.
would David Lynch would replace an actor with a tree? Nobody is the answer.
I really, really want to know what Michael J. Anderson thinks of this. I really do.
He's going to love it. He'll love it. He'll be delighted.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll say lovely things on his Facebook page about it.
He probably already has.
I think he's made a sort of protest. He's not watching Twin Peaks because he thinks it's boring. Despite his profile picture being the man from another place.
What I liked most about the evolution of the arm was I was not expecting that.
No,
it just came out of left field, and I was literally, what?
Well, for one thing, it introduces the concept that you evolve, do you? Okay.
Well, I guess because people age, obviously in real life, humans age, therefore the actors are going to age, and therefore the characters they play are aging. So there is some kind of sense of, time passing somehow in the Black Lodge.
I wonder how many people outside of us three actually realised that is meant to be Michael J. Anderson.
I think there are. I'm on the Twin Peaks Reddit board a lot, and a lot of people know. that
because it's purely because there's that line of dialogue where he says, "I am the arm." Is it in Firewalk with Me?
It's in Firewalk with Me where he says, "I am the arm," and I sound like this.
Yeah.
And then
That's very good.
that thing did a kind of like a slurpier version of that.
But then we have Dale, sticking his head out of gaps in the sky to see the bad Dale driving below, which kind of reminded me of Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote a lot, and the whole Acme portable hole thing, and that's in some way, although this was so really far out, all the lodge stuff. It did have a kind of a Warner Brothers feel that for me that it never had before.
It gets more Warner Brothers. Yeah.
Okay.
That's all I'm going to say.
I'm pretty sure Rob, as soon as this conversation is finished, is going to fire up episode 3 and go, "What are you guys talking about?" Yeah.
Well, I'm just sitting in the corner here, suspending my
which is what you should be doing. Now, I want to say a couple of things about the Black Lodge. I personally felt it was missing a couple of elements. One was music, because even in the Red Room, they have this kind of like slow jazz stuff that's playing in the background, which was absent from here, and I missed it a little bit. And although we were ragging on Michael J. Anderson earlier, I actually missed his presence.
I miss him too
in the Red Room. Obviously we've got we've got the Giant, and we've got Mike, the one-armed man, and we had an appearance by Leland.
I mean, this might be a question that we can kind of return to each episode. Is as things unfold, is our characters here because the actors were available?
Exactly, and it felt like Hawk was doing kind of Michael Ontkean's job.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. If they could have got if they could have got Sheriff Truman would have had that job in the episode.
And I think probably that was why I said earlier that I felt uncomfortable that Hawk suddenly had like more dialogue in that first episode than he had in the whole first 2 seasons, I think.
So obviously we've got Dale, who's been told that he can leave, but there's a catch. He can only leave when the bad Dale comes back.
That did give me a bit of a sinking feeling, because I started to worry that, does this mean that the good Dale is going to spend this entire series in the Black Lodge, and we're not going to get any of the old Twin Peaks where he's interacting with the townsfolk?
Yeah, you can't see anything.
Fine, okay, fine. That's the feeling. That's the kind of, that was my, as a viewer watching it for the first time, that was my impulse. It was, because and with him in the Black Lodge, we ain't got a show really. Ultimately, for 18 episodes. We for another thing, just in terms of the cast we do have, like I think I mentioned it in the last episode, but this is not a soap opera, and it seems to have left the old that genre and that format behind. It's not even it's left that conceit. It seems we may return to it, but. We haven't got a town yet. We've got a few characters we remember. We haven't got a town.
Give up hope just yet.
Oh, I'm not. I think what I would say is that I kind of think, well, just in terms of the jobs this story has to do, we've got this stuff to get through before we get to that. And but it was simply the idea that Dale's stuck until the bad Dale goes back that kind of made me feel a bit, well, then again, it depends what kind of agency the bad Dale will still have if he's in the Black Lodge and the good Dale's out again.
Yeah, I mean, we did get a scene where I wasn't 100% sure about this, but at one point, the evolution of the arm, when Mike says something's going wrong, and the doppelganger tree says non-existent, and then Dale falls into like black water as the floor tiles part.
And that's for me where the episode should have ended.
Yeah. But it didn't.
It goes on. Yeah.
Well, we immediately after that we see that Dale appears in New York and kind of floats into the glass.
Oh, sorry,
box.
no, that's where it should have ended. Yes, with Dale. Yeah.
And then it kind of goes chung 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 for bizarre reasons. I don't know what's happening there, but he ends up disappearing, and then sort of like there's lots of shaky.
Yeah, very Inland Empire.
Flying through space or water. I'm not really sure what he's floating through, but he's floating through something, and that's the last that we see of Dale.
And that's where it should have ended.
So,
yes.
Yeah. But instead, we cut to Sarah Palmer looking at lions eating.
That's great.
Buffalo, which is I like it. It's just understated but creepy.
I like
And then we end with Mark's favourite scene, which is the Roadhouse.
James and his gay English friend.
who's wearing a glove for some reason. I'm not really sure why.
I've just remembered I had a really awful sinking feeling at that point, because watching it the way I watched it, there wasn't an episode 1 and episode 2 division. It was just the whole thing straight through.
Mm-hmm.
And
obviously
I was just totally absorbed by this whole thing. But for one moment I thought, oh God, is this just the end of episode 1? And because I thought, this I loved it, but did that hour really drag? But yeah, so I had.
And then you realised it was 2 hours.
With great relief, I realised no, this was the end of episode 2. But it just felt really disjointed the way it suddenly, essentially began again with James and Shelley.
I don't know. I think that felt like a denouement to an episode, probably just not this episode.
Yes.
But the Roadhouse and Julie Cruz, usually finished things off rather than started things off. But yeah, I concur. It felt like a kind of Lord of the Rings, Return of the King kind of extra ending.
Yeah. That's a good. Not a bad analogy. That.
It seemed to kind of, for me anyway, when I was watching it, it just sort of just slowly ground to a halt, rather than having in the episodic 90s versions of the show, there would be a bit of a sort of da-da, oh my God, what's going to happen next week? Whereas this just went.
I think that's probably that's in large part to the fact that I think Lynch just wrote a huge pile of paper, and then afterwards they decided, they were kind of like, right, how do we? Or Lynch and Frost rather, wrote a mountain of a script, and then they sort of tried to figure out, the sort of entrances and exits of each episode. So I don't think there were any cliffhangers originally written.
I get the feeling that once this thing is available on Blu-ray or streaming services as a whole, I'm going to have to spend 18 hours watching the whole thing from start to finish.
I'm probably not going to do that ever in my life.
I'll tell you what happened.
A bedpan or something, I think.
Actually, one thing that I'm grateful for is that I didn't watch episode 4. I watched 1, 2, and 3. 3 because I have no self-control, and I didn't watch 4 because I was just knackered. But there is something to be said about the way that Twin Peaks was broadcast back then. That you had this kind of, you had 7 days in which to sort of marinate in what you'd seen.
Yes, yeah.
And I miss that. And with a lot of the streaming services, Netflix dumps entire series on its release day, and so does Amazon. And I think one of the disagreements that they had over at Showtime, that Lynch had with the execs there, was the suggestion that they might do the same thing. And Lynch was adamant that it was important to have that break in between the episodes. And I think one of the reasons I have so much affection for Twin Peaks is that time that I spent thinking about the episode and speculating on what was going to happen next week. The fact that it lived in my head, not just for 50 minutes, but for all the space in between those 50 minutes as well.
And especially for Lynch, you need that time. There are very few other filmmakers or artists I can think of where that time to digest it and to work through it, on it, just emotionally, is required. But with him, you are.
I mean, I wouldn't watch 8 Tarkovskys back to back.
No. But when you guys said, when you talked about watching episode 3 or 4, for a moment, it was like, I didn't know what you were talking about, because they're not coming out till a week from now. And so I was really surprised that the first 4 episodes were essentially all available at the same time.
But actually, I'm so ready to see episode 4 now. So something's going right, because I'm gagging for it. And I'm enjoying gagging for it as well, and I guess that's the point.
Now, one question I think I do have is, what is the continuing significance of Laura Palmer, if any?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I feel like her story has been told, and perhaps that moment with Laura Palmer was like a transitional thing, like a handoff.
Possibly.
It's like, I will see you again in 25 years, but when I do see you in 25 years, that's me done. I'm out of here. Yeah, that's I hadn't considered that. That was
We shall see it. We'll see.
I suppose it's about analysing, like, really what is at the heart of Twin Peaks. Why did we fall in love with it? And why are we here now, 25, 26, 27 years later, talking about it?
In a way, I would like it if that really was it, and we don't see her anymore, because it would go counter to what people are expecting. They're like, Twin Peaks, well, of course, it's Laura Palmer. You can't have Twin Peaks without Laura Palmer. But is there a larger story at play here? Is there more to the Black Lodge? Are we talking like a greater evil? What is that kind of like weird creature that was in the glass box? Is this some manifestation of Bob? Is it some other creature? Is it some new supervillain character that we've got to worry about?
I just wonder if all those questions will sustain the same interest as Who Killed Laura Palmer.
That's it for this episode of the Formica Table podcast. Next week we'll be looking at episodes 3 and 4 of Twin Peaks: The Return and sharing our thoughts, opinions and theories as Lynch turns up the weird to 11. Until then, let's rock.